What's up, everyone? It's your boy Hillmann here. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, welcome. For those of you who are old subscribers, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It's finally happening, guys. It's finally happening. I am going to start coaching. It's something I've been thinking about for the longest time. And I finally decided to do it. I've received so many signs from God. I cannot, postpone this anymore. I cannot procrastinate on it anymore. So I guess in this video, I'm going to be talking about my motivation, what led me to coaching, and what I plan to do with it, what it's actually going to look like, what kind of coaching am I going to do? Because so far the interaction in my channel has been a lot with students. So the coaching is of course going to be geared towards students, but I'm going to have like a niche which I'm going to talk about as well in the course of this video, so be sure to hang in there to learn more about what I'm going to do. Something I'm really excited about, guys. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun journey, and I'm glad and excited to have you all along for the ride. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Hillmann. I'm a fifth-year medical student in Maastricht University. I am from Cameroon. I lived in Cameroon and I grew up in Cameroon until 2016 when I moved to the Netherlands to continue my university studies. And that was more or less when this whole thing started, because I moved from Cameroon to the Netherlands, and of course there is a big cultural gap. So it took me a lot of effort and a lot of energy to adjust to the new environment. It took me a lot of figuring out stuff and hitting certain walls and realizing, okay, what I did was, not really the best thing to do, and trying so hard to fit in but not fitting in, and all these kind of things. It was a big hassle. So that's when it more or less started for me. On the side, before I talk more about that, on the side I've been the president of the African Student Association, which also gave me more insights into what led me to this point of deciding to finally do coaching. I'm also a mentor to certain students, medical students, and other students as well, who are trying to navigate the switch and the transition from maybe high school life to university life, or maybe from Cameroon school system to the European school system. So I mentor a lot of students and I coach a lot of students. I talk to a lot of people just on a non-coaching interaction. So basically I was not a coach back then, but I did coach students without necessarily saying I was a coach. But then I took a life coaching course, and I'm actually a certified life coach. And the knowledge I gained and the skills I gained from that, combined with the fact that I was already coaching students, and just seeing how much it actually helped people, being able to figure stuff out with someone and being able to hear some things which otherwise they might have taken months to figure out. That's more or less the motivation to get here. Coupled with my own experience, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, it was a combined effect. Multiple factors played a role into this. So let me talk about how I got here, what my motivation was from my personal experience. So when I moved here, like I mentioned, I had a lot of struggles with fitting in. And in Cameroon, I went to a boarding school. It was a social environment. You were never alone. At home as well, we lived with a lot of siblings. We were never alone. So I was used to having people around. I was used to having friends around. It's a culture where you don't need to necessarily tell your friend you're coming over. Just go over. If they're home, great. If they're not home, you chill with your parents, or chill with your sister, or chill with the family or something, right? Then I came here where you had to make appointments to make people. There was a lot of things which, just culturally, I just couldn't understand back then. But I've been exposed to things a lot of the times on TV. You've watched how life could be here, so you have some ideas. But I feel like living it out is a whole different ball game than just seeing it on movies and TVs and stuff like that. So when I came here, it took me a lot of time to adjust, and a lot of these things no one necessarily warned me about, right? For example, never having a bank account. I went to boarding school. I had to manage finances, but still having a bank account and being, accountable for that and what happens, and fraud and everything, that plays a big role. No one necessarily prepared me for having a bank account and managing my own money and stuff like that. Secondly, no one. I don't know. The European teaching style is different. It's just more hands-on. It's more practical. In Cameroon, we're more theory-based and stuff like that. I never made a PowerPoint presentation in my life before. Although I was in the university in Cameroon, I never made a PowerPoint presentation. So when I came here, it took me literally 4 years. jokes. It took me 4 hours to make a presentation which normally would take you 30 minutes, right? Just because I had to learn how to use PowerPoint. I had to learn how to put pictures in the PowerPoint presentation. I had to learn how to use the fonts in the it was a whole learning experience because I'd never, for example, made a PowerPoint presentation before. I'd never used Excel. I'd used Word now and then, but I'd never really used some of these practical things. I had the theory, the knowledge was there, but it's just the practicalities of it, which are at the forefront of learning here in Europe, I just wasn't used to. And no one kind of prepared me for that. I knew I was coming to use technology, I was coming to use more laptops than I'd used before, but I never expected it to be that deep, right? So no one prepared me with these kind of things. The struggles with fitting in the fast pace of life here. Life moves on and everything is so organized and everyone knows what they're supposed to do. So if you come here and you don't know what you're supposed to do, you can easily feel lost. And trying to fit in, my humor was different. People didn't understand my humor. My jokes were not being heard. The whole thing, it really threw me into an area where I was almost having a burnout. I feel like I was basically having some depressive episodes. Although I didn't want to admit that to myself, but I didn't want to go to school. I just felt like everything was becoming too heavy. I was studying a different language that made things even tougher. The whole thing was heavy, and I didn't feel like anyone could understand my circumstances back then because I felt like no one has been through the same things that I've been through, right? And that just made things heavy for me. I remember when I came out of that depressive state and I actually got the motivation again to go to school, I told myself I never want to be in that situation again. So I stopped trying to fit in, stopped trying to please people and everything. I just tried to make sure that I had the intrinsic motivation to do what I wanted to do, and I wasn't depending on other people to get the motivation. Also being far away from family, being far away from friends, maybe for some people for their first time, that can be heavy as well, combined with every other thing going on. And if you're in a racist environment, that could also play a role. It's like there's a lot of stuff which, for example, international students have to deal with when moving away, going abroad to study. And I just feel like that for me, having gone through all those experiences, I grew a lot from them. I learned a lot. I became a better person for that and a stronger person for that. But however, I do acknowledge the fact that, the energy which I spent in that, the amount of work I had to do to, get myself out of those low spots, that energy I could have invested somewhere else more productive in a way, working on my priorities and goals which I had set, rather than trying to survive in the new environment. Like I could use that. I could have used that energy to thrive rather than survive. I could have used that energy to work on different things, but I had to use that energy to basically keep my head above water because tough times were lasting back then. And I feel like that's just the backdrop to this coaching. It's basically the knowledge and the skills I've gotten over the years, learning from these experiences. I want to prevent someone else from having to go through all that and figuring all that out by themselves. Because I know if I had a coach back then, someone who told me, listen, this is what you're going to face, this is how this is going to go, prepare yourself for this is how you can deal with this is how you can tackle this, just helping you, prepare yourself for what you're going to face, it can already make such a big difference. And also having someone who can help you navigate these things can also make such a big difference. Because sometimes just, seeing someone who has been there and seeing the representation of what you're going through sometimes really makes the problems a lot more bearable. So that's basically what I hope to do. I hope to help students, especially diaspora students from Africa, because the cultural gap is just too big. It's like, okay, you can come from America and you come here, you still have culture shock, but I feel like the cultural gap when you come from Cameroon, for example, it's big. It's big, guys. From my experience, at least, the way I see it, it's just too big. So I want to, help students navigate this new environment, navigate this transition, not have to figure stuff out alone, and, just spare themselves that trouble, which they would have to go through figuring out stuff, and allow them the opportunity to use that energy into more, thriving fronts rather than more surviving fronts. So that's my motivation behind coaching, just helping students navigate that transition and not letting them go through the same things I went through in trying to survive in Europe, rather than just thriving in the new environment I was placed in. Of course, you're going to have struggles. Of course, it's going to be tough now and then, but it shouldn't be, detrimental to your mental health, for example. It shouldn't be detrimental to your well-being, for example, especially when you feel like you're the only one suffering what you're suffering in that environment. So that's more or less the backdrop to the coaching. So I hope to, just help students navigate and find their ways in the new environment. And how that's gonna go exactly, I guess time will tell, because it's just starting, so I'm still learning the ins and outs of what coaching means. But basically, if you're a new student here, or if you're preparing to come to Europe and you are not sure of how to go about it, sometimes only even the application process can be hectic on its own. And I get a lot of messages and emails from students who watch my YouTube videos asking me for help on how to navigate stuff and everything. And sometimes I wish I could help them more, but it's time consuming and stuff like that, and I can't do that because I also have responsibilities. So hopefully this coaching practice, I can pay more attention to these needs, especially students who come from VA and never ever were exposed to a European application system. That could sometimes be hectic. So I hope to, with this coaching practice, prepare students for coming to Europe, maybe some of the logistics, but also when they come here, help them with that transition, because that part is really fundamental. Like the footing which you get off on is really important for how you're gonna experience your whole studying abroad time, because that's a fundamental period which I feel like it's not spoken about a lot. People don't pay much attention to it, but our student years in college or in university are really fundamental for the rest of our professional careers. And I feel like if you don't start that right, if you get off on the wrong footing, that can have domino effects on the rest of your career and the rest of your professional life. So I feel like it's really important that we pay attention to that, and we make sure that students get off on the right footing, so they're already on the right position, on the right highway, if you get what I mean. So basically that's what it's going to be about. If you want to know more about it, if you want to get more information about it, I'm going to be offering a free half-an-hour session to find out if it's actually something that you want, if it's actually something that fits you and can answer the questions you're looking for, or the questions you have and the answers you're looking for. So you get a half-an-hour free session, so you can see if that's something for you, and then basically after the sessions are going to be paid. The prices are still going to be negotiated. They are fixed prices, but depending on how much you require from me, the prices differ. You can imagine if you need me to call the university for you and stuff like that because you're far away and can't call, that's a possibility, but of course it's going to cost more. But it's going to be student-friendly prices, because I know the demographics I'm trying to deal with, and I know it's not always possible to pay me how much I would expect. So then it's really negotiable. But my hope is just that I can help people. And of course, over the past year, I've noticed I've helped a lot of people just talking and interacting on Instagram, but it really cost me a lot of time. And that's just time sometimes I don't have. I also need to survive, and I also need to be able to make ends meet on my end. So I just want to be able to help people. So any possibility I get to do that, by all means. But yeah, guys, that's basically what's going to be happening. I'm going to be coaching. So if you need my coaching services, I'll put all the description and the information you need to get to me in my coaching capacity down below. Be sure to ask any questions, connect with me. I also have an Instagram page which I'm going to link down here below as well. Be sure to interact with me if you have any questions and stuff like that. We can set up a session. All the bookings and all the reservations are going via the email. And if you have any other questions about things which are extras and stuff like that, be sure to let me know as well, and I'll give you all the information about that. But yeah, guys, we are coaching and broadcasting. So until next time, guys, stay blessed, and I hope to see you all soon.